leap of faith.
This is the way. Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Tells me you're for Memphis.
Hello, critics, non-critics, and friends. Welcome to the Film Optix podcast, where we take a glance into blockbusters, indie films, and everything in between. I'm your host, Christian, and I'm joined by my good friend / my co-host, Devin. And today we're here to give our spoiler-free thoughts about House of the Dragon, Ep.7, which drops this coming up week on HBO and HBO Max. And before we get into our review, we'd like to thank Warner Brothers Discovery and HBO Max for sending us these screeners so that we can let you guys know what's coming up in the week ahead. Of course, spoiler free, as I say each and every episode. We want to save those surprises for your guys' first time watch and your second time watch and your third time watch. How many times you end up watching this episode or this series, who knows? But we are here to serve you the tea. And before we begin today's episode, you can listen to our podcast on podcast platforms around the internet. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. And if you're a new or seasoned listener to the show, we would love to hear from you guys. Follow us on Instagram and follow us on Twitter at Film Optix. That is Optix with an X. Or you can email us at filmoptix@gmail.com for any movie-related questions. Devin, we're here on a Thursday, another hot D Thursday for us. How you been?
Spilling the hot DT.
Yes, spilling the hot DT. I'm very excited about this episode because not only is it dark figuratively, it's kind of dark literally, I will say. But we'll get into that when we get into our initial reactions.
Yeah, this is going to be the toughest one to not spoil anything for because quite a bit happens.
Oh, yeah, definitely. There is a lot that happens in episode 7. And of course, as we mentioned before, this is spoiler free. We are not here to give any spoiler thoughts. We want you guys to enjoy the episode for what it is. And also, if you're a book reader out there, I see you guys out there on Reddit and Twitter. Don't ruin things for non-book readers because it's like, I don't know, it's weird. I didn't see a lot of spoilers for during Game of Thrones when that was running for book readers, but a lot of the book readers nowadays, they're getting a little too cocky. Like, yeah, you know what happens, but it's still cool to see it unfold on the big screen or your television screen. Sometimes the big screen. There are a few theaters that do stream House of the Dragon at movie theaters throughout the country. My friend Kyle is lucky enough to do that. So I was very, very jealous. I'm like, man, I really wish I could do that every Sunday. I can go to the theater and watch House of the Dragon on the big screen. That would be pretty freaking awesome. But Devin, are you ready to journey back to Westeros to give our review, our thoughts?
Yes, one last journey in time, hopefully.
Okay, this is like right after episode 6. This is like,
yes, thankfully, I think they said maybe there's one more time jump this season, but then none season 2, which made me very happy.
I'm assuming yeah, there's definitely going to be at least one more for this season, but you kind of have to just lean into it. It is what it is. But
that was my biggest complaint since the first couple episodes, and it got ugly last episode because I was just lost. There are characters that I didn't recognize. It's just a lot.
Fair enough. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after this introduction to House of the Dragon, Episode 7.
The road ahead is uncertain, but the end is clear. We are better defended.
Against whom?
Whomever may dare to challenge us. The threat of war looms. The gods have yet to make a man who lacks the patience for absolute power, Your Grace.
And we are back to give you our spoiler-free review of House of the Dragon, episode 7. Again, we're just going to be giving our initial reactions. There is a lot happening in this episode, like a lot of things happen. So we are just going to give our brief thoughts. And again, thank you to HBO Max and Warner Brothers Discovery for sending us these screeners so that we can give you guys the tea. So, Devin, let's just start off. What did you think of this episode? Your initial reactions, your spoiler-free thoughts.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, I'm glad we haven't time skipped this episode. We're sticking with this current period because it's just nice to actually see the events unfold. You don't really know what you missed during the time jumps, but it just seems like a lot of years that go by. I don't know if maybe there's not many events happening in the world, but it's nice to see a lot of events happening in this episode, which was very, very action-packed and just a lot of storylines coming to fruition. And they actually focused on characters that I know exist, unlike the Strong family. Just kind of spooked up on me last episode, especially the one who is the kid's dad, apparently. I don't ever even remember him being in a prior episode.
Clubfoot, the guy with the cane?
No, the one who's like who got in the fight with Sir Christian and kind of looks like him too.
So yeah, really quick. So we will be spoiling for episodes 1 through 6. So if you haven't seen episodes 1 through 6 up to this point, of course, again, we're not going to be spoiling for episode 7, which is what this review is about. But I just wanted to throw that out there. So to answer your question, Devin, for that character, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name. But
that's part of the issue.
Quote unquote father. Well, I mean, I know who he is. Like in my mind, I'm just blanking on his name right now since we are recording. But the father of Rhaenyra's children, the alleged father, as we found out from episode 6, he was in episode, I think it was either 3 or 4, for a brief moment when Rhaenyra went out in the town with Daemon. Because when she's running back, like when Daemon like abandons her, and she's like on her way back to the Red Keep, she runs into the guard or the guy from the Night's Watch, or not Night's Watch, I'm sorry, the City Watch. I apologize. I am blanking on his name right now, and it's driving me insane. But yeah, he was in it for a brief second.
Yeah, I just found it weird to kind of just make him a focal point for an episode when we really haven't even met him. I didn't know who he was.
Yeah, he was only in the episode for like, he's popped up here or there, but he hasn't had a lot of speaking lines. In the books, it does go into a little bit more detail, but again, with the books, it is more of like a time period piece, or it reads like a history book, excuse me. But sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, it was just cool to get back to these kind of core characters and then the kids of these core characters that we've been introduced to last episode. Their blonde wigs make them look like Finn Wolfhard. I don't know if you saw that picture.
Oh, I did. They were saying like Mike Targaryen, which is really funny. And so his name was on the tip of my tongue. The father of Rhaenyra's 3 children, which one's still a baby, as Joffrey.
The brunettes.
Yeah, that's Sir Harwin Strong. I don't know why I was like blanking on his name. I'm like, it's on the tip of my tongue. I see his name. I can't, for whatever reason, like get it out of my mouth. But yeah, Sir Harwin Strong is, he's the father. Because within the Game of Thrones universe, usually, for the most part, depending on the house, you would take that is a way that they are able to identify if the child is legitimate. Obviously, you have 2 Valyrian.
Because 2 blonde hairs, I don't think I'm not really up on my genealogy or recessive genes or anything, but I'm guessing 2 blondes will not make a brown-headed child very often.
No, not very often, at least within the world of Westeros. There are a few exceptions to that, but you have 2, Valyrian or like old blood Valyria together, and yeah, they should have platinum hair. I mean, it's more blonde in the series, but as we see in episode 6, with Daemon and Laena, you know, the blood of Valyria, you know, it runs through them, you know, Targaryens and the Valerians. Their children have platinum hair or blonde hair, well, however you want to say it. Clearly, that is not the Rhaenyra.
Even Allison's kids got the blonde hair, and she's the ginger.
Right. And that is usually normal because it is with the children would essentially take after the father's hair color. Depending on the house, again, like the Baratheons is a little bit different, but
I didn't know there was a separate Game of Thrones genealogy to study up on.
There definitely is. So Rhaena, the queen who never was, in the book, she has black hair because I believe it was her father was a Baratheon. I'm blanking right now. If anyone is out there, let me know. But I digress. I'm sorry. We're getting off track. Did you have any other thoughts before I give my initial reaction?
Yeah, without spoilers, there's not really much else to say. Cool dragons, another haircut, pretty important haircut, but yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we could talk about it all day, Devin. Like I could give you like the business, you know, like I got the books I could send your way. I got the audio books. You can log into my Amazon account. You know, you can listen to them anytime you want to. Like there's a lot. But yeah, the genealogy within Game of Thrones, once you understand, it's like, oh yeah. But yeah, obviously this is the show. And even though you have like quote unquote half-blooded like Targaryens like Rhaena, who in the books has black hair, they made her hair blonde or platinum, whatever, for the show to easily identify that. And of course, you know, with people of color, which I think was really, really nice touch, because if they never did that, I feel like people would have been so lost, like more lost than what obviously. There's a lot of characters in Game of Thrones. Obviously, we're getting a lot. We have what? Oh my gosh, 9, 10, like 10, like 11 cousins running around right now up to like episode 6. So for my initial reaction for episode 7, again, spoiler free, this is a killer episode. The tension breaks and things just go wild in a way that you're not really expecting. I felt like there were a few similarities to a few altercations or encounters in the Game of Thrones. But I'm not going to say which episode. It's just something I kind of noticed, but it plays out differently, which is what I enjoy about this world, is that you can have somewhat similar situations that happen in House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones, but they play out a little bit differently. Of course, we already saw that twice within House of the Dragon with Emma's death, how she died during childbirth, and then Laena's death, which she chose to, I guess you could say, dragon suicide herself because, you know, the baby wasn't coming out. Daemon was also forced with that decision, but she made it upon herself to make her own decision. But within this episode, like I said earlier, it is a very dark episode, figuratively and literally. I will say, since I have an OLED TV, I had to pump up the brightness a little bit, but that's just because of the way I have set my TV. Because yeah, it's great that, you know, OLED TVs have like the truest blacks, but sometimes you are at a bit of a disadvantage where it's like, okay, I really need to like turn the brightness of my TV a little bit, because a lot of there's just a lot of dark scenes within this episode. Like I said, overall, it's such a great episode. Again, like I'm loving Emma D'Arcy as Rhaenyra. Olivia Cooke is delivering it. Everyone is bringing their A game this episode. The adults, the children, everyone. And I'm just like, yes, like give it to me. But, you know, there's so many events that happen in this episode. I can't talk about it, of course, because we want everyone to experience it for themselves. But of course, you know, we have just again, Damon doing very Damon things. And there is a twist in this episode. I would say there's about maybe 2 twists in this episode. One big twist in this episode that are going to leave people talking for the next week for sure. It is it's a crazy plot twist that's going to leave the audience whoa, just petrified altogether for episode 7. And I'm just going to leave it at that because I cannot talk about this, but all I have to say is the tension snaps and all hell breaks loose. That's all I'm going to say. So that's all I have to say. Devin, is there anything else you wanted to mention in our spoiler-free review of episode 7? We can go back to the genealogy thing if you want.
Yeah, I do agree that there were definitely some dark scenes in this one. I remember, obviously I never watched Game of Thrones, but I remember that one episode where Twitter was just ablaze because of how dark it was and nobody could see. I could see a similar thing happening this Sunday. We'll see how that goes.
Yes, I do agree there. Because you just mentioned that there's a lot of scenes that take place at nights. And if you have an OLED TV, gotta pump up that brightness a little bit. For the episode that you're talking about for Game of Thrones, the Long Night, I think that was episode 3 of season 8, where, the Long Night comes to Winterfell. And a lot of people were couldn't see a thing. And I believe they have fixed that since, especially if you own the Blu-rays or the 4K Blu-rays, whatever, just physical copies, or if you're watching it on streaming. I believe they have fixed that, much like the infamous Starbucks coffee cup in season 8. God, that was so funny. But yeah, I could see there being a similarity because, like I said, there's a lot of cave scenes and a lot of at night scenes as well. But yes, I do agree with you there for sure. Is there anything else you wanted to mention before we close out here? Because I will go on a rant if I keep talking.
Yeah, I'll just let the people know this is definitely the most happening in one episode so far, I'd say. Everything just kind of comes to a head, like you mentioned, and we finally get some action here, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, it is. Man, I can't wait to watch this episode again. I really just can't. It is going to be fantastic. But like I said in previous episodes, everyone's just bringing their A game. And, I understand a lot of people were attached to Amelia Alcock as Rhaenyra, but I just got to say, Emma Darcy is really bringing it home for her being the older version of Rhaenyra. I think it is a smooth transition, much like it is for Olivia Cooke and for Alicent's, and they've been doing such a great job. Just want to say, a great job to everyone involved because, like we said, Game of Thrones is back. Time jumps, say what you want about them, but it is very true to the books. This does kind of fill in a few of the speculations that the books kind of just leave off as, they don't really know what happens because Fire and Blood, the book, takes place. It's written by the Maesters. It's not written by the point of view of the characters who are actually involved in this story, this downfall of the Targaryen dynasty. But with all that said, again, we would like to thank HBO Max and Warner Brothers Discovery for sending us these screeners for you guys so we can get this out for you guys. So we're very, very excited for you guys to watch this week's episode. Let us know what you thought of the episode and tweet at us at Film Optix. That is Optix with an X. And with all that said, if you liked what you heard on today's episode, please, please, please subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform of choice and make sure to share an episode of our podcast with a friend, whether it be your mother, your brother, your lover, whoever it may be. Make sure to share an episode of the Film Optix podcast with a movie lover in need. And really quick, what is coming up? My gosh, there's a lot happening. Of course, we're going to be covering House of the Dragon, giving our spoiler-free reviews each and every week for you guys. We're also covering She-Hulk each and every week for you guys as well. So our episode 7 review will be dropping around maybe the same time this does, maybe a few days later on a Monday. And we also have our the Midnight Club review dropping for you guys on October 7th. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Officially spooky season coming up here within the next few days. So, we got all that goodness coming out for you guys. And you can also check out our Avatar: The Last Airbender Book 3 Fire series revisited review that is up on the podcast, as well as our previous House of the Dragon episodes and She-Hulk episodes. And we have a few other just great movie reviews out there for you guys for like Barbarian, Orphan First Kill, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. We've just been hammering it home for you guys because we love you guys so much, and as well as our Don't Worry Darling review. So definitely check out all those on your favorite audio podcast platforms of choice. And we hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you guys later. And that's a wrap for today. Thank you all for listening. And if you enjoy the show, leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram to stay in the know. That was Devin. My name is Christian, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Peace.